Welcome to our Comme Des Garcons live panel. Lovely panel I have with me. I have Fred, I have Camilla, and I have Trino. Are you all excited about Comme des Garcons? Do you all follow the work of Ray? Is it something that you're...
I think everybody does. Along the way, everybody in fashion's kind of been following Ray's work since she started it.
That's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask all of you, which is she seems to have cultivated this position as a designer where everyone respects her, everyone looks up to her, and I think very few other designers have that kind of just complete respect of the industry. How does she have that? Where's that come from?
Well, I think as there was Coco Chanel, Cristobal Balenciaga, Ray doesn't reference anybody other than this internal compass that she has guiding her to do what she does. And as much as she's a designer, we were saying this before, she's an amazing creative businesswoman. I mean, the way she's changed concepts for how we shop, what we buy, what products.
And also the lack of concern about competitors. I mean, she's taken on her own designers
like
that worked with Johnny Watanabe, and she's supported them. She's open to fashion. It's not the industry to her is very different and non-competitive. It's very much feeding of creativity, and her respect is about creativity rather than, which is very much now this kind of business of fashion. So she leads in that way.
I mean, it's hard to talk about her without sounding pretentious, but she actually pokes fun at it. I think she really does poke fun at it, and she's got a really, if you go to her Dover Street stores or if you look at her last season collection, I think she's got, wouldn't you say? I mean, look at that collection, Fred. I mean, those colours would be fabulous on you.
She's very witty, and is that something that, is it someone that you've looked up to as a designer when you're working on your accessories?
Yeah, because it's about, because I can't remember which one it was, but a recent panel discussion, Colin said that fashion is an art, which upset me a bit because I thought I may as well give up because that's why I do it, because it's a creation that is on a body, isn't it? It could be a sculpture in a museum or something. That's why I love her collections. And the fact that it's a whole thing as well, that the hair and the hats that she do with Stephen Jones and the makeup is always like something from another planet, isn't it? It's not like anything you've seen before. That's what I love. And it's exciting to go through all the seasons on style.com, isn't it? Because they're,
There's so, I think it's really interesting that you raise that point of fashion being art, because there's so many of her collections where it's very hard to look at them and say, that's just fashion. She's always making something more. And I think that was when she made her Paris debut in '81, and everyone talks about that as this huge moment, but the way she just completely revolutionised the industry and what the industry could be about, and she completely took fashion away from being about luxury, and you see that both in her clothes but in the way that she set up her stores, and you mentioned Dover Street, but her guerrilla stores as well. What do you think was so sort of monumental about the change that she brought?
I don't think it was that she took it away from luxury. I think she just took the way she changed how you perceive it.
What is luxury now? Luxury should be about creativity. Because if luxury is just about something being very expensive, that's a very shallow approach. It's kind of, something should be luxurious if it's been thought through, if it's got a heart to it, if it's got something that it means something along the way. Surely that's more important than something that it's a crocodile bag, so it's very expensive. It becomes, I think, our perception of luxury, because there's so much branding about, it's just become about price, and that's not really what luxury should be about. Luxury should be about thought, time, creativity,
and worth.
And if we talk about rareness, it's not because a crocodile is rare. Something is rare because there's not a lot of it about, which is creativity. It's kind of, so it has luxury about it, but it's not the standard terms of luxury now, which is what's fed to us. Fashion is very different now to what it was sort of 15, 20 years ago. And also the word fashion now, is it contemporary fashion? Because that's what we see in a lot of what designers do. Or is fashion something which is meant to be making you think, what is fashion to us right now? Is it something that we're just putting on as clothes, or is it something better than just a piece of clothing?
But do you think her work was something that actually made us think about those types of things? So think about creativity and think about individuality, and I don't just mean sort of In the traditional sense, I mean the sense of wearing something just for you, not for people around you,
think
not
the
for your
whole Japanese
husband.
designers, when they all came out, made a big difference.
bang, yeah.
They did make a really big bang. I mean, even Issa Miyake, when, you know,
With his kids,
Yoshi, and Yoshi Yamamoto.
Yoji, yeah.
It was a huge, big movement that I don't know whether you really see those big movements anymore.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask, especially someone like Fred, you're a different generation and you're working in a very different sort of environment to the early 80s. And do you think it would be possible to create that sort of, that kind of revolution where it's just a completely different aspect? Because it was like this tidal wave.
It's a shift in fashion. I mean, you see it in London now. They talk about print, digital print and colour, and there's a huge big... I mean, it's not as monumental because print's been around forever, but there's little waves
but there's
of it.
always shifts, and there's always way that it's evolving and moving and sort of...
But this has stood the test of test of time.
I mean, but last season she was poking fun at the change of the internet and, you know, how we're all sort of like so instant access and viewing everything, and how her clothes cover the 360 degrees of the body, whereas she sent out, last season she was all 2Ds and flats, and I think, you know, that just shows her humour as well as her skill.
And I've seen this in all the shops.
Yeah.
And it looks great. You know, it's kind of...
Well, Lady Gaga wore it, didn't she? And
I see it in retailers everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not...
It's new.
It's new.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not actually that unwearable. I mean, it's on the body.
But how does she tread the line between, we've all said she really makes you think about fashion. It is intelligent fashion, perhaps like the purest sense. But also, we all said she's built this incredible brand. Like if you look at something like Comme Des Garcons Play or Shirt and the perfumes, it's an incredible brand. It's like got something like £180 million turnover a year or something. And how do you think she's managed to walk that line so well between doing something that does feel incredibly thought through and incredibly almost kind of niche, like you feel like everything that she creates has been touched by her, which obviously isn't the case, and doing things like a huge H&M range? How has she managed to keep that balance so well?
Well, it probably... I mean, the approach to a business, it is touched by her.
Yeah.
Because it's touched by her and her husband. You know, it's
Yeah,
kind of like, it's their approach. It's their approach to business is as creative as their approach towards fashion. And the shirt line, you know.
Were, if there were more conglomerates following the business plan of Ray and Adrian,
or just doing their own, or creating their own business plan.
Looking to that rather than joining another satellite together. I think that it would be a really interesting thing to witness. I think that, you know, where they've opened, it looks like it's casual, but it's very clever and strategic, and I think that it's a bit like looking at a little folded up origami swan. It looks simple, but actually when you unfold it and you see it's all very precise and you know, it's when it came over, it was such a... do you remember when it used to be that glass box next to Claridge's, and you used to walk past and see when Mrs. B had all the creations in her comm studio, and you had to ring the bell to go in, and it was like, you know, it was like the Gagosian had suddenly invaded the British Museum. It was...
But then the
whole
thing about the shirt line, which is really accessible in price, and Play, which is really accessible in price, she doesn't try to make it it's austere and too difficult. The whole business of Comme des Garcons is about I'm here for everybody. It's kind of like, you know, it's...
I mean, she has her black line that's going to carry on throughout this economic whoops.
And I'm interested that you say sort of it's something for everybody, because I feel like a lot of people see it as a difficult brand. What would you say that's the case?
I think it's the opposite, because it's not so fashion, it is just interesting and fascinating. So anyone that's into appreciating visual things are attracted to it, aren't they? So, you know, people want to have that and have, you know, the shirt with the little heart logo or the wallet they've saved up.
How many
for.
wallets?
That's the one thing they want.
How many men do you know who doesn't have the wallet? Because I think there was... I heard some very impressive figures about how many wallets they make a year, and that's a serious business, you know, and they're not difficult, they're not tricky, they're beautifully well made, simple
but
wallet.
so iconic in a way, you know.
So iconic. Everybody you know has one.
You know, so simple as well. We've all kind of said that she stands alongside like Coco Chanel as someone who's had this huge influence. What do you think her biggest influence on fashion, I mean today, obviously this may develop and change as her career continues, but the way in which she has revolutionised fashion since she sort of showed in Paris, what's her biggest
achievement
been? Well, achievement, or the way in which she's changed the industry, I'd say. Is it through making designers look at things like more distressed fabrics and looks, or is it, do you think it's the business? How do you think she's inspired or
she
influenced
crosses
other
so
designers?
many boxes because she's been so clever with all the products she does. When you go to her Place Vendôme and you see the accessories, the shirts, there are so many lines, as well as the shows and her collaborations with Julienne Dice, or the perfumes, or the people that she supports and has in Dover Street. I think she just sort of I think actually one of the things I think is really fascinating about her is that she has touched on a business side and creatively and at the Paris shows, but she's still a real enigma. You don't really know.
No, you don't really know, actually. I think that's what's really interesting is I think
you read
her and agent do what they want
Yeah.
to do. They just do what they want to do. They don't see the barriers. And I think that's the most important thing about them is they don't see the barriers towards doing something. If it hasn't been done before, that's not a reason not to do it. The same with her collections. It's not been done before. That's not a reason not to do it. That's a reason to do it. The same with the way that they approach the business. So nobody else has ever brought in under their own wing the other designers that could be classed as competitors. You know, she's done it because she's completely at home with the fact that it's never been done before. The same with Dover Street Market. Selling competitive retailers, they do it because
they admire them.
They admire them, and it's a true respect from their side. But I think the biggest thing about Comme is if it's not been done before, that's a reason to do it rather than a reason not to do it.
And do you think that if she hadn't sort of started showing in Paris, do you think that there are many young designers whose careers would be very different in the way they presented themselves? Not just the designers like Junya, who she looks after, but all the countless things. See someone like Marc Jacobs, who's done collections inspired by her work. What do you think the differences would have been if she hadn't showed? I'm interested in the idea of how much she's shaped sort of fashion as we know it.
But she's had how she's influenced it, I don't think that was part of her plan. I think she has been an enormous influence, but you can't ever say how it would have been if something had happened. Because
maybe Mark would have worked with somebody else. I mean, who knows? It's
who knows?
I do think that the biggest thing is that they approach the business and they approach their creativity as in we've got to do something new. We have to do something new, and it's in the collections, it's in the way that they collaborate, and it's in the way they run a business. And I think that's what a lot of people look at and think, wow, that's you know, I can do something different in the collection, and that's fine. And I think that's the biggest influence they have, not the clothes that she's done, which is just one part of what's made Comme des Garcons so amazing.
I'm interested you say it's one part of what's made it so amazing, because I completely agree when you mention so much of it is the fact that she kind of completely keeps herself to herself. You know, she's not kind of playing the fashion game in the way that other designers are.
You don't really read a profile on her, and if you do, it's very guarded bits of information, and I think that that's really chic, because I don't think a designer should be defined by how they take their tea or where they like shopping. That's irrelevant. Like, you know, we have this celebrity culture that is just so distracting from actually what is being created, and I think the pieces on the runway or the pieces in the shop or what you're inspired by, you know, what you're creating should be the star, not the person sitting spouting off and being a superstar. I think I think that's what they're very much about, that it's the product that's the star.
Can you ever predict what she's going to do next?
But a good designer, you shouldn't be able to predict.
I would never want to say.
I think when you're reviewing a show like Comme, you go and you can't even think that you're going to get a clue or a helpful piece of information from the invitation, from the program notes. I mean, she usually gives sort of one or two cryptic words, but it's, you know, you have to just let her play out her theatre story and see how it will unfold, and just keep up with the ride, because you know that there'll be a fabric innovation, a cut innovation, a silhouette, and there'll be something that will really change. I mean, have you looked at her things and been you must have looked at her work and thought
Just
that's
the
really
approach.
interesting, and her approach, and
That she does exactly what she wants to do. I think that's the overriding.
do you find that an inspiring sort of mantra or way to work. That's how you work, isn't it?
Yeah, just to be pure and do it. But now it's so difficult to do that because you're under, so much pressure to sell. And,
especially if you have tea with us.
So, that's the magic thing. That look at it. I mean, it's a freak, isn't it? And it's fantastic. And yet, they've got the business that we've been saying. They're shifting numbers. So that's rare, isn't it?
How do you keep things pure when you're creating? I mean, I know we were teasingly bullying you about business, but
how do you mean what in the actual
how do you keep
process?
the creative process inspiring and electrifying and not getting bogged down by facts, figures and production and numbers?
Well, I
what
haven't
drives
entered that
you?
yet, but it's just because you're always working, you can't not work because of the turnover of time, and you're not sleeping. The only thing that keeps you going is what excites you and what turns you on. So whatever I'm doing, it's got to be pumping me. Otherwise, I'd rather be in bed. so I just do every season what's making me.
How did you realise you wanted to be a designer? What made you?
I was just. It sounds really stupid and annoying, but that's all I've ever done. When I was a kid, that's all.
What you were always
to the detriment of everything else in my life. Like, I really don't know anything about politics or economics or anything because I'm just completely absorbed in that, and I don't know anything about anything else. And this is one of the things,
So you can.
When I was a kid, looking at books.
Yeah. What sort of books did you look at?
Well, if I went to exhibitions or things, to the V&A or this is a big one, isn't it? Yeah.
But I think that's what's so interesting about her in the way that it is just the way that everyone looks at her, and every young designer, there's something in her that just captures this bit of every sort of creative imagination, whether it is fashion or it's similar to what you said before about if you're interested in sort of design, you like her work, because she inspires everyone from artists to writers to designers, and there's something.
But you understand that she has a big respect as well.
Yeah.
She respects designer creativity, and you feel that.
Yeah.
Whereas, should we be reviewing a lot of other designers, we would just feel that they're there because it's a business and they want to make money, and they could have been in any other business if they were running a restaurant or if they were, Whereas you feel with Ray that she has a huge respect for everybody else in the industry that is also out there trying to create, and that's what drives her.
I think there's something so interesting about that, and I don't think there isn't an answer to it, but it's how she has kept that for the years that she's been working while creating a business.
I think she still oversees everything, every small detail, so she hasn't lost touch with anything, because I know people that do the windows at Dover Street, and she comes up with the idea and she signs everything off. It's not like she's handed everything over. So I think when it is your baby, your business, and you keep it like that and you don't lose touch with it, then that's probably how as well. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about her aesthetic, because as much as there's something, you can always see kind of that it's Ray, and you always know that it's sort of her, which is surprising given how different this season was to last season. She does change and she does modify a lot. I'd say she's less aggressive than she was when she first started showing. And how would you say you've seen her aesthetic change and develop?
But it's changed as the world's turned.
I think it's just, she's lived through a lot. She's seen plenty. Things have changed within fashion and probably the way that she feels about things, and that's just reflected in how she reflects that in her collections. But I don't know whether we should get too bogged down with looking at something that has changed from 10 years ago, because I don't know that she wouldn't come back and reference something very similar next season. So I would imagine she's that kind of designer that doesn't even analyse herself whether she's moving on or not, and she just goes with her own flow and her own feeling. And I can't imagine that she's looking at Fashion Week right now and thinking, is it all going to be about the new silhouette?
Do you think she reads her reviews? Do you think she cares?
No.
I think it's a bit like a poet, really. Sometimes when somebody writes a beautiful sonnet, and you used to get them at school, and you'd sit down and you'd dissect the
I think we can do too much of
this,
that.
and the other. I think sometimes with fashion there's a danger of taking away from its beauty by sitting and dissecting it.
Unconscious thing, like writing.
Yeah.
When you get words and they sound nice, you didn't know they were going to do that. It just comes. It's the same thing.
And she's fallen because of that, with people picking out references of things she's done, like with the Tumor collection, as everyone called it. People got very offended by it when, who knows if that's what she was looking at. And she's had that with the striped pyjamas when people made references to Auschwitz. And I think she has fallen sort of because people, they pick
But I think
it's
it's because writers, editors, you know, people do put things in boxes. You do put things in familiar boxes. You have your little boxes of references in your memory, and you put them in those little pieces so you know where you're standing. But I think one of the things that makes her so interesting is she keeps almost like a innocence, like a childlike innocence, and it's very pure design. It's not bogged down by I need to sell 400 t-shirts or
the silhouette this season is going to be like this,
or Christ,
if I want to
sell plop in a peplum.
If I need to sell in Barney's, I better make sure that I've got this fabric in there because they tell me it's the bestseller.
And I think there's a certain I mean, she is like a rod of steel. She's so determined and so driven by what her direction is, and I think that almost devil-may-care attitude is what makes her stand out.
But also, what's so smart is they make their money in other places. They make their money on the wallet, the play.
No, I mean, she doesn't sort of. I mean, she doesn't.
So she doesn't have to compromise her
she
vision.
doesn't have to compromise.
Dream.
Fred, take no.
The pictures from the collection are coming in, so I was going to say, it's the opening look.
It's white.
Yeah. It will be all white on the night. That will be a Julian Deese collaboration with the hair.
The headpieces are inspired by the artist John Chamberlain.
Oh. Are those by Stephen Jones?
I presume so, yes. And that's another thing which you mentioned, the hair, but it's that she gets these long-term collaborators who, you know, she just clicks with, and it's been since the 80s.
But I think a lot of designers like that. You need somebody that you can just work with. Exactly.
But we were talking about this with Gareth Pugh, and we said he's kind of got this team around him who just get it completely. And do you think that's always the best designers manage to sort of find those people that bring their world alive?
I think it can go both ways. I think that some designers
freshen themselves up, always picking up somebody new.
Because it can be inspiring also to work with new people.
So get a fresh take on it, but also similarly, it's, you know, you get your limbs working, and you know, there's your hand, there's your heart, there's your soul, and some people become so integral and interwoven with each other that you can't imagine them not working and collaborating together, and they do get this amazing creative shorthand, and other times you need to just shake it up and put somebody really new in, and Ray would do that at Dover Street, or you know, she's not totally.
Gary Card did the headpieces this time last year, wasn't it?
And she, if you look at Dover Street, it's interesting that you mentioned that she's got designers like Phoebe English and Simone Rocha, and she's you can see how much she's got her sort of like finger on the pulse of what's going on. You know, she's always looking for something fresh and exciting, and I think it's how you mentioned before, she's not afraid of competition. She's pulling up someone like Janya.
She embraces other creatives.
You know, because
that's part of what is her. That's part of why we all love her, because it's kind of because we have a huge respect for the way that she respects creativity.
Yeah, I mean, you have to I mean, as much as you should compare her to a Coco Chanel, she's also alongside a Mrs. Burstein at Brands, because she's totally innovative. As you know, if you think of standout buyers or retailers, she's a standout person there. As much as she's in the designer, as much as she's in the business, she can wear all these different hats, and I think
that keeps it fresh as well.
Keeps it fresh.
It does keep it fresh. You know, you're bringing in like Simone Rocha and designers like this, and they're very new, and they're very, but she's given them already a platform that gives them that kind of level of status, because they're selling now in one of the top retailers in London, and
alongside Elias. And
exactly.
Should we continue with her collection?
What's nice with having the photos is you can go backwards and forwards. You know, when you see shows like this, you can't go, excuse me, could you walk around again for me?
And you missed something because you were looking a little bit too long.
We'll never see the back of the garment now on this.
We can do a close-up.
That's the problem with this thing. That's why last season was so good. Oh, can you hang on?
What is
See
the
the
fabric? I
construction.
can't see the. I can't tell the fabric from here. I'm the furthest away from the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that what you're claiming is your disadvantage?
I can see that fabric.
Yeah.
I mean, the construction and the
It's
way
just-
she
it's
cuts
amazing.
and drapes is
Incredible.
incredible.
But every collection she does, you get that I've never seen this before
Yeah.
feeling, which is so rare.
Never seen it before, but also never references the
And that's the
past
reason.
or
And
anybody.
that's the reason to do it.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
You know, and also, if you remember what she did last season, it's a total...
Oh, it's completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
I mean, actually, if you go back even to last spring, summer,
Yeah.
volume, width, and then
Yeah.
here, this is not that volume. This is really the silhouette is. I mean, that silhouette is
Yeah.
really quite exploded and
Yeah.
very soft, and we've got this origami kind of feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something more like raw, I think, with this one.
Yeah.
And in the last two collections that she's done, there's been a certain kind of finesse and precision to them. Even with the flat, everything felt very considered.
Although
Whereas
it's raw, you can tell it's a bit like a Picasso when he went into Cubism. You can tell that it's so precise.
it's perfect raw.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see the back, and that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Cut out. And you
See
can
that?
see a bit of her stomach here. as
Looking at that I'm going to say almost feels like an old Japanese kind of like, from the
well.
early 80s. That's
Yeah, I was
got
gonna s-
now, especially because it's in the black and it's kind of
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about will they ever go back to what this does feel a little bit now similar to early
Yeah.
days of Comme, Yoji,
Yoji,
Izumaki,
yeah.
that kind of.
But I think it's almost hard to remember what fashion was like before those days. I think you it was so sort of such a pivotal change, but you can't imagine fashion without Comme des Garcons or Yoji now, and I think that's what's so impressive about her work.
Well, also she's managed to maintain that. I mean, it's pretty impressive to maintain your position at the front the entire time.
Yeah.
She's never ebbed and flowed, which is interesting. This is something we were talking about when we had our Balenciaga discussion. We were talking about Dries, and we were saying how it's always up and down, and it kind of collides with fashion. It's always brilliant, but kind of coming sort of
I don't know.
into the
I feel like
forefront in a
Dries
way.
are liar. They just have people who just love them. And that consistency, and they don't care if they come out of fashion.
Yeah.
They don't care.
But Comme, it's a different situation. They've always got the people that love them, but they've always been in the forefront of everyone's minds.
Yeah, because the people
Because
that
she's always about 5 steps ahead of most
she is.
ideas.
It's interesting because we had Susanna Franklin for Balenciaga, and she said the designers the game changers, the amazing ones, they're the ones that do something new, and it's always new.
Yeah.
And she's like not in a naff kind of just churn out something different, but they're just pushing a boundary always.
You've got to
And
take
it's so
2
simple,
steps
but-
forward.
Yeah.
You have to take 2 steps forward because you're going to pull somebody behind you just 1 step, which is all. But that's at least moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think it's a designer's position to take 2 steps forward because
The
now a lot
designers
of what
that
you
only
see,
do 1 step aren't going to
they're not
be
moving
remembered.
it. No, because also
Yeah.
the fashion behind them,
Yeah.
nobody goes to think,
Yeah.
if you're,
And you've got so many designers to choose from now. You have to
don't even know where to look.
Yeah.
And you go on style.com, I just don't know where to start now. There's
There's too much.
I can't-
choice.
I can't
At least
keep up
you
with-
know with this you're not going to be looking at a trouser and a top, are you? It's like a whole new creation from...
Yeah, it will challenge you.
That's why, I think,
What do you think of the headpieces?
I want to actually, give it a touch. Because it looks like it's really heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
it
they don't
does.
look like they're having a problem walking or anything. It looks...
Something very regal
professionals.
about that.
But they always have a sort of poised dignity, I think, her clothes.
I think dignity is definitely.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like it's been through what do you call it? Like a vacuum pack or something. That looks like a gilet or something that's been squashed down.
But she's really moved away from the curves. This is similar to what you were saying, and gone back into that folding, that origami. And
It'd be
Beautiful
lovely to
colours.
see them.
Beautiful colours
Yeah.
for summer, actually. It's very unusual. It's
like
the kind of
that
colours that you normally
yeah.
reference for
We've said this in
winter.
pretty much every discussion, but just black this season, just everywhere. And I think maybe it is, I say this every discussion we have as well, but maybe it is this idea of fashion, it's not really about seasons anymore. You know, fashion's stuck in the
It's not
seasonal
about
patterns.
seasons,
of
yeah.
it.
And you know, especially not to stand out like this, it's not
Yeah,
a
exactly.
trend.
Yeah.
This is kind of, it's a piece at
It's
the
a
end of the
piece
day.
you have, yeah. Working with a brand like McQueen, was it a similar sort of feeling, because obviously they were pieces?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, you don't ever consider what the trend is going to be this season.
Yeah.
Are we moving towards,
or even the weather that season.
or even the weather, or the colour story that it should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, it's a personal approach each season, as in what you're feeling, and you can't put that personal idea and put it in a box and say, well, that's for spring summer 2013. You just have to roll with it, and when that's where your heart's going to go that season, then that's well, you have to put on the catwalk. So,
do you think fashion should change the way it's sort of the schedule of the shows and the way it demands these presentations?
well, now I feel that if I go back really to when I started in fashion, then was when Gautier was showing in London, and I'm going back quite a long way, obviously. It's completely different now. Now there's just people on the schedule that they're not really fashion designers. They're either versions of high street, they're contemporary designers, and we've now fashion's now, we're kind of moving into the high street, as in we have to deliver something new every 6 weeks. We have to.
Yeah.
That was what the high street used to be about.
Yeah.
And the way that the industry is moving is, I mean, people like Comme, they don't consider it that way, and which is really refreshing, because, and even designers like Tom Ford, he's trying desperately not to play that game, and I feel he's on his own, like, I'm not letting everyone come in and
he's
review it.
He's trying not to play the game, but he's actually having to buckle and sort of...
No, he is, because he's doing it on his own.
He's sort of like a lone piper with
that.
that.
He is. There's a lot of designers now, and you hear Albert talking about, you know, like, they're all discussing that the way that the industry is and the way that the fashion schedule is, it doesn't give you time to breathe, it doesn't give you time to think, it doesn't give you time to create. And as a designer, you've got to love what you've just created and put out and stand behind it. And it's not just about, well, I know that sold really, really well last season, so I'm going to do that version. And that's kind of contemporary design. I've got to do that's
but
what
also,
the industry is.
because the schedules are getting more and more frenetic and more crammed, it's just fueling this insatiable appetite for more. And you'll have people running backstage going, well, probably not with Ray because I'll be too respectful, but they'll go, what was your inspiration? What are you up to next? And it's like, well,
what are you up to
next?
next? Do you find that such a pressure, Fred? You must in London, where there is this kind of new, which is part of its appeal, but does it scare you that just that quantity that you're expected to sort of...
Yeah, I don't know how people manage to do what's it called, the ones in between, because I can only just manage with doing the two. And then on top of that, when you're taking orders, now people want you to do exclusive fabric combinations for their shop. So if all of your stockists are saying, love
now.
that, can I have
made
it?
everybody the expert, so everybody says, oh, let's change the next, sorry to talk to you. No, but it's true, like now you're not just dealing with a buyer, you're running the gauntlet of people on the internet saying, oh, Fred, if you could change this, if you could do this, then your buyer's saying, oh, but if you do it in green and then you do it in blue, and everybody's
But also,
involved.
if people are shopping on the internet, it's very different.
Which
you walk
is
into
great,
it's brilliant. But if you walk into a store and you try something on and it fits you and it feels great, you're going to buy it there and then. You're not thinking, I'm going to go and have a look. I've just tried it on in Harvey Nichols. I'm going to go and try it on in Browns. That doesn't exist. You tried it on. All the effort's been done. If you're sitting on the internet and you're surfing, you're going to matches.com and then you're going to netaporter.com and then you're going to go to louisaviaroma.com and all the same products are on there. And it takes no effort at all because you're just sitting on the internet pressing buttons. They need to have exclusives because they need to have a reason for you to stop in the online store. So it's an inevitable kind of, it's not like when you're walking into a bricks and mortar and the effort's all been made and I'm then not going to go from Selfridges down to Bond Street to the same brand. I've already traipsed through Selfridges, I'm not moving.
Do you think that's why some brands stay away from the internet a bit? Because there's often a lot of people say, you know, like high fashion is the one sort of area of commerce that's not doing so well with the internet. It's kind of
Is Net-a-Porter
missing
saying that?
opportunities. No, not Net-a-Porter. But a brand sort of something like Prada, where they've been more hesitant with the internet. Do you think that that's why?
But I think everybody's doing different things to try and stand out and make it so that, oh, they're the ones that don't do internet, they're the ones that don't let you into the shows, because
we're trying to slow it all down. I think we're just trying to change the pace.
But why isn't it it's slowing down? It's so interesting because we do this series at Shows You called In Fashion, where we do one-on-one interviews. And I've done it with a number of designers, and every single one without fail criticises the pace. They say they hate it. It's what you're saying. They say they can't be creative. They say there's always this pressure. They have to kind of forget something the minute it's over. They say
they're
their
not
vision
completely
can be
happy with what they've done.
Exactly.
You know,
but why isn't it changing? Does anyone enjoy the pace?
Because we're at the beck and call of
life.
retailers, and retailers I feel like we're following what the high street, Zara were doing, where every 6 weeks they looked at what was done in the fashion, in the fashion schedule, and they could literally repeat, okay, let's take Prada and deliver it in 6 weeks' time, then we're going to take inspiration from Marty and Sitbom and do that in 6 weeks' time, then we're going to take inspiration from McQueen and we're going to deliver that in 6 weeks after that. They can completely change their store, so every time you go into the store there's something new. But as a designer, you've put your collection up there, you can't be doing that, so we're trying to keep up with those.
But also I think it's the world has changed. I mean, I remember when I started doing shows back in the 18th century, I remember
I was there with you.
I remember doing the shows when I started doing the shows, we didn't even have mobile phones or faxes. I was working with Sean and he would shout from one end of the room to the other, and if you had an appointment you turned up at that appointment, whereas now you're too I mean, it's great in one way, but it's also, that's what the pace is, because now you can text someone, call someone, zip someone, zap someone, be on the phone to Japan 1 minute, be on a plane to Amsterdam or wherever, and it's it used to be, I mean, when Com first came over from Japan, it was like, oh my goodness me, it was like unlike anything you'd ever seen. I remember when I was at school, we had my mum found this Japanese girl lost at the station, and she was folding up origami papers, and she was in this amazing yoji coat, and she was just like this out of context beautiful little alien, and she came and lived with us because she couldn't explain where she was, she didn't have a phone, she didn't have this, and now you can order it on the internet and get it straight away, so you have to find a way of being different and standing out, and that's why things like Moda Operandi, where that you can buy the showpieces that you can't buy anywhere else, or Nets gets exclusive colorways, or I think there are all sorts of ways to try and make it different, but I think that it just needs to find a bit of a harmony. But everybody worries about things getting faster and faster, but also if you said to the office or everybody, right, you're not allowed to use the internet or your mobile phone for the week, good luck at making that happen.
But I think that's what's interesting about Com. It goes back to the point we were making before of how well she's kind of run her business, so you never feel like she's lost anything that's sort of intrinsic to her. And it's interesting because when we did our Burberry discussion, we barely sort of looked at the clothes throughout their live stream. We talked so much about their digital innovation. We all kind of got to the end of the our live discussion, and we all said, we didn't really focus enough on the clothes. But then I thought, do they even want us to? Because their press release had more about their digital than it did about...
It's their focus. Yeah. It's they're not trying to reinvent the wheel with their clothes. They're doing very nice clothes for good quality, but what they're trying to do is be the leaders in digital. So,
have we got any
I was going to say, should we
talking of clothes, should we look at them?
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love the third sleeve. It's just so sort of calm.
It might not even be a third sleeve. I think it might just be the way it's twisted on the body.
There's 4 of them now.
Is there 4 now?
No, I think there's some trouser legs.
4 and 2 trouser legs coming here.
Very sculptural.
And that's the closing look.
I'm going to have to get closer. I can't see.
Should we go to the close-ups?
Yeah, I just want to see the fabrics.
And also that's another thing. There's only so
many
many
looks,
looks, which
How many?
is
34.
34. More than enough.
But you get the impression she's not going to turn out more than she wants. She'll never just be like, I'll stick 60 out because I have to. So there's a close up of the batten. The headpieces.
Makeup's amazing. Didn't know those socks were going to come back into fashion.
Should have kept them.
I think I have.
I really want to, but now you said that. It looks very, you can see the fraying there, I don't know if you can see that from where you are, but it looks very sort of a humble fabric.
Image.
It's like a sort of duchessy satin, I think it's different.
It's like a little kind of...
Should we go back to it, sorry? So what are our gut reactions to it?
I'd love to see the patterns. Because when I make things, I make them and then they're made and I can't remember how to do them again. I'd like to see.
I like to look at the sleeve, which I couldn't
Yeah.
like I had a spine down the side of it.
Because they do look like...
Well, she once did a collection that was just paper patterns for dresses, so maybe next season you'll get the patterns from them.
That'd be a way to change fashion, deliver pattern pieces with the garment.
Or just deliver the pattern.
Yeah, here, make it yourself.
We have a series on Show Studio, actually, it's Design Download, where designers give us patterns to how to make their clothing and people can download
That would
it.
be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a big task for someone. Make 4 or 5 sleeves, sew them on.
Can we see this one up close?
That's as close as we can get it, I'm afraid. But just beautiful. And then the sleeves. And that's the clothing look. And you can see this is a kind of a nod to last spring and summer, you know, there's more of the volume. How do you think this will be received? It's hard to predict, but...
Well, she doesn't go for a reaction, she goes to just provoke a thought, or... I think with Comme you always have to go and reflect on it and just sort of like let it mull over in your head, not reflect in a religious way, but just sort of, with Comme, she isn't going for the shock of an exploding balloon, she just wants to throw an idea out there.
If you look there, it's not shocking. It's just incredibly interesting. It shows
beautiful
craftsmanship.
craftsmanship.
It's got craftsmanship, and it's kind of like, who says that you can't have 3 sleeves? It's the kind of thing that people joke about. Oh, it's like a jacket with 3 sleeves. There it is. It's, you know, it starts off with very simple origami pieces that are really easy. You'll see them in all the stores. It'll be very easy to wear.
Proportions very balanced, and then she showed different
combinations of fabrics
and combinations of fabrics and cuts, and even the sleeves there, you can see they've got different cuffs on them and darting.
It's strange you say it's not shocking, because people always, I think this is kind of, it's lazy journalism in a way, but people always say like controversial designer, when actually she's not particularly she's only as controversial as you make her, but it's always kind of pinned alongside her, and
it's quite gentle. I think that was not gentle, but it feels quite serene.
Serene. Should we give her
I think we should give her a round of applause.
To close things off.